Your brain is already following rules. Tonight, you're going to learn 3 mental tricks that can make discipline feel dramatically easier. Not next month, not after reading another productivity book. Tonight, most people spend years believing they lack willpower, when the real problem is that their brain has been trained to choose the option that feels easiest in the moment. Scientists who study decision-making have found that your brain constantly predicts the effort each action will require before you even begin. That doesn't mean you're lazy. It means your brain is following a mental shortcut it believes is protecting your energy. The surprising part is that you don't need to fight your brain to become disciplined. You need to give it better instructions. The 3 mental tricks you're about to learn may seem almost too simple, yet they change how your mind evaluates effort, rewards consistency, and makes choices under pressure. By the end of this video, you'll understand why discipline isn't a personality trait, but a system your brain can learn. And the first trick takes less than a minute to use, yet it can completely change the way your brain looks at any difficult task. Mental trick 1. Shrink the decision, not the goal. Most people think they procrastinate because the task is too big. That's rarely the real problem. What your brain actually resists is making a decision that feels expensive. Before you lift a finger, your mind runs a quick prediction. How much effort is this going to cost me? If the answer seems high, your brain tries to protect your energy by steering you toward something easier, like checking your phone, opening another tab, or telling yourself you'll start later. Experts in behavioral neuroscience explain that this happens before the work even begins. Your brain isn't measuring reality. It's reacting to its prediction of reality. That's why writing 1 sentence can feel just as intimidating as writing 10 pages. You're not reacting to the first step. You're reacting to the entire mountain you've imagined. This is where most productivity advice misses the point. People tell you to break big tasks into smaller ones. That helps, but it still leaves one hidden obstacle. Your first decision is often too large. Instead of asking yourself, "Can I finish this project?" ask, "What's the smallest decision I can make right now?" Don't decide to study for 2 hours. Decide to open the notebook. Don't decide to clean the entire room. Decide to pick up 1 item. Don't decide to write the report. Decide to type the title. It sounds almost ridiculous, but this works because you've changed what your brain is evaluating. The predicted effort suddenly drops, so the resistance drops with it. Once you've started, something interesting happens. Psychologists who study habit formation have noticed that beginning an action often reduces the mental friction that existed before it. Your brain updates its prediction from "this is difficult" to "I'm already doing it." Try this tonight. Think of the task you've been avoiding the longest. Now ignore the final outcome completely. Focus only on the next action that takes less than 30 seconds. If you can make that first decision feel almost effortless, you've already defeated the hardest part of the process. But here's the twist. Many people manage to start and still quit just a few minutes later. The reason has nothing to do with discipline. It comes from the way your brain thinks about the person you'll become tomorrow. Mental trick to make your future self feel real. Your brain has a strange bias. It values the comfort you can feel now more than the consequences you may face tomorrow. That is why scrolling for 20 minutes feels harmless, even when you know it will create stress later. The reward is immediate. The cost belongs to someone your brain barely recognizes. Your future self. Scientists who study decision-making call this temporal discounting. In simple terms, the farther away a consequence feels, the less emotional weight your mind gives it. Tomorrow's exhaustion, next week's missed deadline, and next month's regret all seemed less urgent than the comfort available in the next 10 seconds. This is why telling yourself, "I'll deal with it tomorrow," feels so convincing. Your brain treats tomorrow's version of you almost like another person. You enjoy the relief now, while that person inherits the pressure. The second trick is to make your future self emotionally real before you make the decision. Tonight, before going to sleep, choose 1 task you need to complete tomorrow. Close your eyes for a moment and picture 2 versions of the next day. In the first, you delay the task again. See the unfinished work, the rising pressure, and the disappointment of repeating the same pattern. Do not exaggerate it. Make it specific. Then picture the second version. See yourself beginning when you planned to begin. Notice the mental relief that comes from not carrying the task all day. Imagine reaching the evening without guilt because you kept the promise you made the night before. This is not empty visualization. You are giving an abstract future consequence enough emotional detail for your brain to treat it as relevant now. Psychologists studying self-continuity have found that people often make better long-term decisions when they feel more connected to their future identity. Make the exercise stronger by finishing one sentence before bed. Tomorrow, I will thank myself for. Then complete it with one clear action. Not a vague goal like being productive. Use something concrete. Opening the document at 9, training after work, or leaving the phone outside the room while studying. When the moment arrives tomorrow, you will not be choosing between effort and comfort. You will be choosing which version of yourself becomes real. The third trick changes the reward itself. Instead of waiting for a major result to feel successful, you will teach your brain to experience discipline as proof of who you are. Mental trick 3. Reward the identity, not the result. Most people accidentally train themselves to stay inconsistent. They tell themselves they'll feel proud only after losing the weight, finishing the project, getting promoted, or reaching a major milestone. Until then, every small effort feels like it's not enough. The brain notices this pattern very quickly. It starts associating hard work with delayed satisfaction and immediate discomfort. Specialists in dopamine regulation explain that the brain doesn't respond only to the final reward. It also pays close attention to signals that confirm you're moving in the right direction. Every time your actions reinforce a consistent identity, your brain receives evidence that this behavior belongs to you. This is where a small change in language creates a surprisingly powerful shift. Imagine two people who both complete a 30-minute workout. The first says, "At least I exercised today." The second says, "I'm becoming someone who keeps promises to myself." The action is identical. The identity is completely different. The first person celebrates an isolated event. The second strengthens us, and your brain is constantly trying to stay consistent with the identity it believes is true. Once you genuinely begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, skipping the next session creates internal conflict, not because someone is forcing you to continue, but because the action no longer matches who you believe you are. Studies on habit formation consistently show that lasting behaviors are more likely to stick when they become part of a person's identity instead of remaining a temporary challenge. People who think, "I am a reader," tend to read more consistently than people who simply try to finish one book. The same principle applies to discipline. Here's a ritual you can start tonight. Before going to bed, don't ask, "What did I achieve today?" Ask, "What evidence did I create today that proves I'm becoming a disciplined person?" Maybe you resisted checking your phone during work. Maybe you started a task on time. Maybe you stopped after one cookie instead of eating the entire package. Those moments may seem insignificant, but they are not. They are votes for the person you're becoming. The goal is not to convince yourself with positive thinking. The goal is to collect real evidence. Your identity should never be built on wishful thinking. It should be built on repeated actions that your brain can no longer ignore. When you combine this mindset with the first two mental tricks, something unexpected begins to happen. You stop relying on motivation to push yourself forward, because your brain gradually starts expecting disciplined behavior as the normal way you operate. Why these three tricks work better together. Each of these mental tricks is powerful on its own. Together, they create something much more important. They change the sequence your brain follows before you act. Think about what usually happens when you're about to do something difficult. You look at the entire task, your brain predicts a high mental cost. You imagine how uncomfortable it will feel, and then you search for immediate relief. That entire process happens in seconds, often before you're even aware of it. The first trick interrupts that cycle by shrinking the initial decision. Instead of asking your brain to commit to a huge challenge, you ask it to take one tiny action. The predicted effort drops, so the resistance drops with it. The second trick solves the next problem. Even after you've started, your brain is still tempted by immediate comfort. By creating a stronger emotional connection with your future self, you give tomorrow's benefits a louder voice in today's decisions. Suddenly, stopping early doesn't just affect a distant version of you. It affects someone you already feel connected to. The third trick locks the behavior into place. Every completed action, no matter how small, becomes another reason for your brain to expect the same behavior again tomorrow. Behavioral psychologists have long observed that repeated actions gradually become automatic because the brain prefers familiar patterns over constant That's why truly disciplined people often say they don't feel motivated every day. They aren't relying on motivation anymore. They're relying on systems their brain has already accepted as normal. This also explains why trying to change everything overnight usually fails. When you attempt a complete life overhaul, your brain interprets it as a massive increase in effort and uncertainty. Resistance rises immediately. But when you reduce the first decision, strengthen your connection with your future self, and reinforce your identity after every small win, you're no longer fighting your brain. You're teaching it a new default pattern, and that leads to the most important part of this entire video. Knowledge alone won't rewire your brain. The transformation begins only when these three ideas become actions. That's exactly what you're going to do tonight. The Tonight Challenge. Don't wait until Monday. Don't wait until you feel more motivated. The best moment to teach your brain a new pattern is the next time you have a choice between action and delay. That moment can happen tonight. Choose one important task you've been avoiding, not the biggest one on your list, but the one that keeps quietly occupying your mind. Now, forget the final outcome. Your only objective is to reduce the first decision until it feels almost impossible to reject. If the task is writing, open the document. If it's exercising, put on your workout clothes. If it's studying, place the book on your desk and read the first paragraph. Before you go to bed, spend 1 minute thinking about tomorrow's version of yourself. Picture waking up knowing that you already kept one promise tonight. Then imagine the opposite scenario where you postpone it once again. Pay attention to which version feels lighter, calmer, and more confident. You're not trying to create motivation. You're teaching your brain to care about the person you'll become in a few hours. After you complete that first small action, stop for a moment and ask yourself a different question than you normally would. Don't ask whether you've done enough. Ask, what does this action say about the kind of person I'm becoming? That answer matters more than the size of today's accomplishment. If your answer is, I'm becoming someone who acts instead of waiting, your brain has received a powerful signal. You have just given it evidence that discipline is part of your identity, not just something you occasionally achieve. This challenge may seem too simple to produce meaningful change. That's exactly why most people underestimate it. The brain doesn't transform because of one extraordinary decision. It transforms because ordinary decisions are repeated until they become expected. Complete this challenge tonight, and tomorrow you won't be starting from zero. You'll be starting with proof that you are capable of keeping promises to yourself. The real surprise comes after repeating this process long enough. There is a point where discipline no longer feels like something you force. It begins to feel like the most natural thing you do. Discipline stops feeling like discipline. The biggest misconception about discipline is believing that highly disciplined people wake up every morning feeling inspired. They don't. They still face distractions, low energy, and moments of doubt. The difference is that they no longer negotiate every decision with themselves. They've trained their brain to expect action instead of excuses. Tonight, you learned 3 mental tricks that work together to make that possible. You discovered how reducing the size of the first decision lowers resistance before it appears. You saw why connecting with your future self makes long-term rewards feel real enough to influence today's choices. And you learned that every small action becomes a vote for the identity you're building, making discipline something your brain begins to recognize as normal. None of these strategies require extraordinary talent. They don't depend on having more free time, a perfect routine, or endless motivation. They depend on repetition. Every time you repeat these patterns, you're strengthening mental pathways that make the next disciplined decision a little easier than the last. Researchers who study the brain's ability to adapt have consistently shown that repeated behaviors reshape neural pathways over time. Your mind is always learning from what you repeatedly do. Whether those habits help you or hold you back, It's whether you're intentionally deciding what it's changing into. So don't measure your progress by how motivated you feel tomorrow morning. Measure it by one simple standard. Did you keep the promise you made to yourself? Because every promise you keep becomes evidence. Every piece of evidence strengthens your identity. And once your identity changes, your behavior starts following it almost automatically. Your life doesn't change the day you feel motivated. It changes the day your brain starts expecting you to keep your promises, even when no one is watching.